Yep, thanks very much for the time today, Vinnie. My name is Jason Kotsaftis in product marketing at Rimini Street. I look after our Oracle applications business, including PeopleSoft, as well as our cloud solutions.
Great. Well, thank you. Thank you for taking the time.
So I want to talk a little bit about, we had a very interesting set of results from PeopleSoft customers. You know, a lot has changed with PeopleSoft in the last 2 years, and it's been kind of subtle. And I don't think a lot of people have noticed it, but you know, if you look at what Oracle's done, they've changed their support and delivery model for the application. You know, for years, Oracle had this model where they would every couple of years come out with a new major release. And you would have to make a decision. Do I upgrade to that release or do I hold off on upgrading to that release? And within the last 2 years, Oracle shifted this in two important ways. Number one, they don't have a new major release on their roadmap. So right now, PeopleSoft 9.2 is the last major release on the roadmap. There is no 9.3. And the second thing is, instead of giving you those upgrades, what Oracle's done is they said, well, we will support your 9.2 release for at least 10 years. However, we're going to give you updates several times a year that you have to think about, do I apply those updates or do I not? Those updates contain a mixture of maintenance-related things and features. So if you think about it, if you're a customer of PeopleSoft, in the past, you would get through your upgrade and you would have a moment where you could say, okay, I've got 2 or 3 or 4 years before I have to think about upgrading again. Well, now there's two things that are true. If you're not on the latest release from PeopleSoft, if you're on 9.1 or earlier, you're no longer fully supported by Oracle. And that's what they say in their own documentation. And that's a risky situation to be in because you're no longer getting new tax, legal, and regulatory updates. You're no longer getting new fixes. You're no longer getting new security alerts. The second thing is, even after you upgrade to 9.2, you still have to keep up with the updates that Oracle's giving you in order to ensure that when you call Oracle for support, they'll work your case. So for example, if you skipped your 9.2 updates for an entire year and then you called Oracle, they may not be able to work your case because the fix to that problem might be in an update that you've skipped. So it's been a whole different mindset we've heard from Oracle customers now where if they're running PeopleSoft, they've either decided to stay back on 9.1 or earlier, or they're on 9.2, they're on this treadmill of updates and they're thinking about, where am I going? Like, what am I going to do next? Do I want to stay on this path? And what's the value to my business? Should I go to the cloud? So we did this survey to really understand what's in the minds of PeopleSoft customers today, given the changes that Oracle's made in their support policy and how they deliver their software. And so we conducted this survey on a global scale. 200 surveys were completed, a good mix across North America, EMEA, and Asia Pacific. We had good balance within the actual titles and roles of people. So we got good perspectives from the senior level and decision makers and those looking after the business, as well as the people handling these products on a day-to-day basis. And it was a good mix of revenue sizes and industries as well. So ultimately, we ended up with really 5 key insights from all of this work all of this research and responses from the customers. The biggest takeaway was, from what we've seen.
By the way, Jason, the survey is available if you sign up, right? There's a site where people can get the whole survey.
Yeah, the survey is actually publicly available on our website now. You can go directly and download it. Yeah. And we will be translating it too into multiple languages.
Great.
Yep, so on mainstreet.com. The biggest takeaway for us right now is when Oracle decided to not come out with 9.3 and kind of stay on 9.2 but give updates, they came out with this marketing term called continuous innovation. They said, well, what we're going to do instead is we're going to give you updates every year continuously, and it's going to be continuous innovation. Well, the survey has shown that customers are just not seeing and feeling continuous innovation. And they're starting to think about going to the cloud, but when they do, they're not choosing Oracle's cloud exclusively. They're going with best of breed. That was probably the biggest top level overall, feedback we got. But then there were these kind of 5 key insights within it, and I'll go through each of these. And some of these reinforce a lot of what Hari just talked about as well, and Hari talked about with our support offerings, and some of the announcements that we've made this year are designed, really to address some of these challenges. The first thing that really was amazing was almost all, 97% of PeopleSoft customers feel like the software they have today more than meets their business needs. And they're running multiple versions. They're running 9, 9.1, 9.2, 8.9 in some cases. So we've not seen, the majority of these customers are not running one release. And so they've stayed on releases that are no longer fully supported by the vendor, but that release is meeting their business needs. So there's a reason for that. And I think it's that, PeopleSoft is great software. They've been perfecting it for many years. People have tailored it to their business. They've customized it. It runs what they need it to run. And they didn't feel a need to change. But the second point behind that is there's a frustration with the support they're getting from the vendor today. And that frustration really comes in 2 forms. It's the cost and also the quality, the responsiveness that they're getting, the need to escalate to get people that can fix your problem. So that was kind of the first overarching insight that we got. Then what we did is we wanted to dig deeper in 2 buckets of types of PeopleSoft users. Those that are on the older releases that are no longer fully supported, and those that are using the latest release that is fully supported and is in this kind of continuous innovation mode. So for the first set of people that are on 9.1 and earlier, we wanted to first understand, okay, if you're on 9.1, Oracle's not giving you anything new, right? You're not getting new updates, new features, new tax legal. So are you starting to use AMS, Application Management Services, right? We wanted to understand, do you still have your own people looking after an application that fundamentally is kind of in a steady state? And what we found was nearly 3 out of 4 are using AMS today for some or all of those applications, which was great validation for us because, as you know, we offer AMS today as well as support. And 1/3 of these same companies are also using or evaluating third-party support. So we felt this was great validation for Rimini Street's business model. This was part of the reason, Vinnie, we got into the AMS space was we believe that customers would benefit, particularly these types of customers where their application isn't changing much anymore, would benefit from having a single place to go to get third-party support at a lower cost and higher quality and get AMS. And these companies right now, for PeopleSoft that are on 9.1 and earlier, are doing both of those things. So we expect to see that trend hopefully continue, and we'd love to have those conversations with PeopleSoft.
Well, it's great to see you. I've been telling Harry that for 5 years.
Yeah, it's a logical next step. And, there's other studies out there about, one of the challenges with the traditional AMS providers is they often will use the vendor support on the back end. And, the frustrations that are in insight number 1 would come into play. So we think we have a good opportunity there. Insight number 3 was, okay, of those people that haven't upgraded yet, that are on 9.1 and earlier, how many of them are going to upgrade, right? Are they thinking about doing it? And right now, less than half have definitive plans to upgrade. And those that are thinking of doing it, 85% of them listed the reasons they're going to upgrade are for maintenance and support. Only 15% said, there's a feature that we're going to go to 9.2 because we really want that feature. That's an alarming statistic to me because 9.2 has been out for a long time. There's hundreds and hundreds of updates Oracle has made to that product, but only 15% of these companies that haven't upgraded yet are going to upgrade to get those features. And I think it echoes what we've been thinking and seeing and saying, which is Oracle's not putting as much investment in the core PeopleSoft product line as they used to. And even these updates that they're providing, and they have been providing to 9.2 for several years, are not delivering enough meaningful value. And so we see these upgrades, even if they are happening, driven by support, not necessarily by maintenance. And then the fourth insight we wanted to say is, well, what about the people that actually did the upgrade? Okay, so they're on 9.2, they've been using it, they're in this new model, they're getting the updates from Oracle that come 4 to 6 times a year. Are they actually seeing continuous innovation, which is what Oracle, calls this as a marketing term? And less than half said that they were actually getting strong new innovation delivered consistently. A lot of people said they're getting some nice to have features, right? It's not that Oracle isn't bringing features in them too. They are. If you go look at their website and you look at their roadmap slides, there's a lot of bullets on those slides, right? There's a lot of features. But when you look at what the features are, they're incremental updates to, a lot of cases, things you already have, features you already run. In a lot of cases, the updates are for modules that customers may not run.
Are there seeing any benefits from the autonomous database? Some of the new...
the autonomous database?
Are there
so underneath PeopleSoft, you'll see a lot of Oracle database, for example. Most of the customers that we've seen today are still, several releases behind on the database. They haven't yet moved to the latest and greatest in autonomous. And we actually have a great separate survey on the database we just did as well that digs into that. So we thought that was kind of an interesting insight of most people that haven't upgraded are not doing it for features, and the ones that are using it are not necessarily seeing the value. And so this kind of leads us to the cloud, right? I've done a lot of presentations with PeopleSoft customers the last couple of months. I had the pleasure of presenting with a couple of public sector PeopleSoft customers from Canada recently. And, when we were prepping for the webinar and we were talking about their future plans, they're all kind of in some degree thinking about going to the cloud in some time frame. But what we've been hearing is most companies today, and the survey validated this, are preferring to keep their software they have and lift and shift it onto an infrastructure as a service cloud, as opposed to essentially re-implementing it, or what we call ripping and replacing it with a SaaS application, which is kind of a net new product, right? And we've seen, and the survey validated, of those moving PeopleSoft to the cloud, twice as many are going with infrastructure as a service versus SaaS. That was pretty eye-opening.
2 points on that. During the pandemic, I've been interviewing a number of C-level executives, and every one of them has complained about how on-premise was difficult as they moved to work from home, right? Because they had VPN provisioning issues, scaling issues, and all that. And many of them said, we're looking at lifting and shifting to, a different hyperscaler. The second point is, I told Oracle, must have been 4 years ago, I said, OCI is kind of empty. Why aren't you offering this to PeopleSoft, JD Edwards, Siebel customers? And actually the executive looked at me and says, oh, that's boring stuff. We'd rather go after new opportunities, because they were chasing out to the Amazon, new development customers. So, it is what it is. But, your point validates it.
Yeah, it's very interesting. I mean, obviously, when you go with SaaS over infrastructure as a service, it can be harder to get out of there. And I think if you're a vendor, they would want people to go with SaaS over IaaS. But if you're a customer, we've spent a lot of time talking to AWS, some of the partners that do those implementations for IaaS, and there's so much benefit you get just by getting infrastructure as a service. And if you weigh that against the delta of going to SaaS, particularly if you're using third-party support, it's very attractive. The other question we wanted to ask, though, was, there are people that are using Oracle SaaS and have been, and of those people that are going that direction, are they fully replacing their ERP with Oracle SaaS? Are they buying the whole suite, or are they actually using a best of breed? And 70% from this survey of those that decided to use Oracle SaaS also used a third-party SaaS solution like Workday. So it's very interesting as well that, it indicates almost to me that the Oracle SaaS product may not fully replace what they have today, which is kind of what we felt. It's hard for Oracle to catch up, especially as you pointed out, for a long time they were delaying, I think in a lot of cases, moving into the cloud space. It's hard to catch up functionality, right?
That's true. Most on-premise vendors are seeing, I coined a term called ring fence. So many on-premise solutions have been ring fenced by 20, 30, 40 SaaS, small apps around them. So I don't think Oracle is unusual there, but your point is well taken. They're not directly moving to Oracle SaaS. They're buying best of breed. Yeah.
So for Rimini Street, right, being in the business we're in, we felt this was great, great confirmation of, most customers today, PeopleSoft is great software. We've been saying this for a long time. Customers may have customized it to their business. They want to run different versions of it for the right reason, and they want to have that ability to run that for a long time. And that's exactly what we try to do with third-party support, except charge them 50% less for the support for doing so. And as we've talked about and announced this year, improve their SLAs, improve their response times, give them a more tailored tax, legal, and regulatory experience, and fill the gaps and be better at the things that they're frustrated with from the vendor, and that the survey pointed out a lot of. The rest of the slides, Vinnie, go through what's in the survey and give you some of the actual details beneath a lot of this. I can go through this real quick if you'd like, or we can,
real quick, and then I'll
here's
the link to where people can get the full survey, but spend a few minutes.
Okay. Yeah, so here's takeaway number one, as I mentioned, 97% being satisfied with their business needs. These were the top challenges, as I mentioned. Cost was at the top, no surprise, but time to respond and needing to escalate were number 2 and 3. And I think some of our announcements this year, to Hari's point, are directly designed to hit these problems, as well as the 50% off of maintenance hitting number 1, and of course supporting custom code. Although this was last on the list of frustrations, it's very important. The majority of the tickets we actually end up servicing today for a lot of our clients involve customizations they've built that the vendor isn't supporting today. In terms of AMS adoption, as I mentioned, the vast majority right now are using AMS for some or all of their applications. This was interesting to me. So if you're not on the latest release, if you're on 9.1 or earlier, and you're no longer fully supported for Oracle, a huge majority are still paying Oracle for sustaining support, which was very surprising to me. So you're basically paying for support and you're not getting much new in return. They may also be paying separately for tax, legal, and regulatory updates. We've seen this. One of our clients was paying $50,000 a year extra to the vendor for tax legal while paying for sustaining support. So you're paying double essentially, or more than your baseline support. So some interesting things there, and I think again, right in line with what Rimini Street is delivering right now. In terms of plans to upgrade, as I mentioned, only less than half have definitive plans to upgrade, and as you can see, only 15% said it was to deploy new features or functional enhancements in 9.2, despite the fact that 9.2 has been out for about 7 years and has hundreds and hundreds of updates to it. So again, I think an interesting telltale about how much value is in the 9.2 release to date. But, when people get to 9.2, we wanted to understand, are they applying these updates? What are they seeing? One of the things that was interesting was people are applying the updates very frequently. In fact, the majority are staying current, which makes sense. As I mentioned, when you call Oracle support, you need to make sure that you're at least reasonably current to avoid them not being able to work your issue. But again, the question is are you applying these updates just to keep supported, or are you applying them to get innovation? And the longer you stay on this path of applying updates and not necessarily moving the needle of innovation, you can start to fall behind. And this is what a lot of customers, I think, are starting to think. And
you got to do for every update, you got to do all the integration testing, and it's not an island, right? It's all.
Yeah, there were some other statistics not on this slide in the survey. It takes about 4 to 6 weeks to do the test, about 3 to 5 people. We in our ROI calculator spend a lot of time talking to customers about what they're actually spending on this. And you're right, it's not trivial, particularly if you're doing it multiple times a year. Oracle's built some tools like the PeopleSoft Update Manager to automate a lot of this, but it doesn't preclude the need to actually test it and validate it and put it into your environment. And so I think this is leading a lot of people to think about the cloud for PeopleSoft. 80, almost 90% are at least evaluating or considering moving to the cloud across the board from the survey. But there's a strong preference for infrastructure as a service right now over SaaS, and there's a strong preference for a best of breed approach when they do those things. So I think again shows some struggles Oracle continues to have with their cloud product. So those were the high points, Vinnie, and the survey has this in a lot more detail to it. And this is just a recap and kind of our takeaways from the findings. But appreciate you letting me walk through this and share it with you.
Absolutely. Send me the link to the survey, and I'll include it in the write-up.